Hey guys, welcome to TCR. Sid here. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So we're in the middle of winter right now, and it's time to start thinking about what spring's gonna look like. So let's talk about starting our poultry. Every season on the farm brings something different, and it's important to kind of stay ahead of things. So you want to start thinking about what you want to have going on in the spring right now, in the middle of winter, when you have a little bit of a lull. So I think my cat just deflated. Right around Christmas time, I start planning out what kind of poultry that I want to be doing in the spring. I start evaluating my current stock and looking at, my breeders. Do I need to bring in fresh blood? Do I need to start looking at different breeds? Like, this is the time to start kind of evaluating all of that and figuring out, if you're doing meat production, what kind of meat birds you're going to be doing, and potentially going ahead and placing those orders and tracking them down now. We do several batches of meat birds every season, and we like to do the Cornish cross. Now, there's several different meat breeds that you can do. I have been interested in looking into the American Bresse, which is the American version of the French bird that is highly delectable, but I haven't been able to get my hands on any yet. The Cornish cross are pretty standard. They're a fast-growing meat breed, and depending on the size that you want your birds at, you can usually start processing anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks if you like the true kind of game size, kind of, I call them personal pan chickens. Or, you got your roasters and your broilers, the longer you let them go. So, if you are pasturing your birds and you can, wait till they're 12 or 16 weeks out. Where we have a much more mild winter, which means because I brood my birds outdoors, I have an outdoor brooder, and of course, obviously, I've done heat lamps in the past, but I've started doing the little heat risers this last season. I started with those, mainly because I got quail, and so I had to figure out what was a better way to keep them warm. And I went ahead and gave the warmers a try, and I gotta say I had really good luck with them and less chance of fire, because that's the whole thing with the heat lamps, is everybody's always worried about the fires, especially when you've got the bedding and all that. So this time of year, right now in January, is when I start putting in my orders for my meat birds, and I start spacing them out accordingly. So I usually like to get my first shipment of chicks, and sometimes I'll do batches of 25, and sometimes I'll do batches of 50 at a time, and then I'll do several of those spaced out, usually about 4 to 6 weeks apart, to allow me time to grow them out, move them to pasture, and then have the brooder empty and ready for the new set of chicks that's coming in. I find that really works well for us timing wise, to be able to kind of keep everybody rotating through the season, and then also be able to keep up on butchering that way. So for us here, with a more mild winter, we usually get our last frost in March. So if I put in my order and get my first shipment of birds in the beginning to middle of February, that means that 4 weeks from then, they're generally, I'm looking then at mid-March or so, they're off heat, they're ready for pasture. At that point, because of the weather shift, the beginning of spring, we've got some nice grass on the pasture for the birds to go out onto at that point. Give them a few weeks out there, get those guys turned around in time for my next shipment of chicks to go into the brooder. So, it's all, kind of planning it out and looking at, how many birds do you want to do? Are you selling them locally, or are you just raising them for your friends and your family and yourself? What is your plan? How many birds personally are you going to eat a year? So start looking at that and kind of mapping it out and figuring out, how many orders do I need to put in, or do I want to get a different, maybe a dual purpose breed that's going to take longer to grow, but that I can breed myself and have it be maybe a little more sustainable in that sense. We also do quail. So this season, because quail don't have very long lifespans, you're looking at, about 1.5 years generally. So some of my birds are getting older. I have some of my offspring still from last season's hatch, so they're younger. However, we did have some predator problems this year, so my stock dwindled drastically for my breeders. But I have a friend who I kind of got into quail, I guess. And she found some other birds locally that were non-related to ours. And so we're gonna be, she's actually incubating some eggs for me now. So I'll be getting some babies actually a little earlier than I would normally start. Now, the great thing about quail is they have a quick turnaround time. So you're looking at anywhere between, I've had them hatch as early as 13 days out of the incubator, but usually on average, it's about 16 days, 16 to 18 days. I swear they always go early. I don't know why, but they always do. And then once you hatch them out, they're just so teeny tiny. They do take a long time, or it feels like a long time comparatively to a regular, chicken chick, because they're a little bit hardier when they're babies. Got to keep them under heat a little bit longer, I found. But once they're ready for the quail pen, it's easy enough to just kind of move them out there and have them layered accordingly. So I'll sometimes, I'll separate my girls and my boys until I want to breed them again, or I'll have which generation is which, and you can separate them into the different tiers of the cage, which is nice. And they reach maturity so quickly. You're looking at about 8 weeks, and they're starting to lay eggs already, and then you're on your cycle again. So, or you're processing them because they're big enough. Somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks generally. So, which is just pretty quick. They're just, whereas, a regular chicken, you're looking at months and months, depending on the breed, somewhere between 5 to 8 months for them to really start laying. So having those quail eggs so quickly and being able to do a larger amount of them in a smaller space is a really nice thing. Plus you get, meat out of them too, if you like. And it's a pretty quick butchering process versus a larger bird. It just tends to go a little faster. I know for us, we did 75 or 80 of them one day in like 2 hours, and we were done. And that was like set up, clean up, and we filmed it. So it was pretty quick. This time of year, this is when you want to start thinking about planning your spring flock, looking at your current layers and saying, do I need to revamp? Did they not lay very much this year? How old are these guys now? And really looking at that, because when you add a certain amount of new layers every season, it allows you to kind of have a consistent supply of eggs. So this would be the time to look at, okay, am I gonna, purchase some pullets from another local breeder, or am I going to incubate some of my own eggs from my own flock to revamp the egg laying in my flock and really make sure that I have, this next season that I'll have a consistent, they'll be coming into their first year of lay at the end of summer, beginning of fall. So then when my older girls maybe aren't laying as much when the time changes, or they go through their molt, because chickens don't usually go through their molt until they're about 1.5 years or so. So you can get another season of fresh layers giving you eggs consistently without going through gaps where, you've got all your birds are 3 to 5 years old. They're all going into molt in the winter, and you're not getting any eggs. And so this will help kind of alleviate that, excitement, I guess, and allow you to have fresh eggs all season long that way. So get on it. Don't wait until spring to start planning, because especially now, since the world has changed slightly in the last couple of years, we've had a lot of influx of people really getting excited about being a little bit more sustainable, raising some of their own food, which I applaud and commend and find exciting. However, I think the rest of it has not caught up to that yet. So there is a little bit of a supply issue with getting the poultry that you want when you want it. So don't wait too long to get your orders in if you're ordering meat birds, or if you're ordering, fresh breeding stock. Start looking at it now. I know it seems weird in the middle of winter to be thinking of that, but this is the time to start planning your spring so that you have a beautiful summer full of happy animals and birds. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you get the notifications.